Hey y'all, Fat Man Outdoors. As you can see, I'm out in the field. Got the blind set up here behind me, up in the fence row where I'm going to be hunting from. Got my old pal Greenie right here behind me. I'm running right down the edge of about a 17-acre soybean field here. And down below me, over this way, I've got a feeder over in the corner. I've got a pond over there. Got a couple of trail cameras set up and a salt block put out, a mineral block, I guess you should say, not actually a salt block. And I've got a really good travel corridor for deers coming through here at about between 100 and 200 yards. That's got a lot of good trails coming into a food access and a place they trust real well. They don't have to deal with people coming in and out here all the time. It's a pretty good setup. So we know that it's this time of year, it's early October, the bow season's already in full swing, but rifle hunters and muzzleload hunters, we're about to get our chance. You don't need a whole lot of stuff to deer hunt. It doesn't require a whole bunch of stuff. There is some things you have to have, and there's a few other little things I think that are essential to help you harvest a deer and make things a lot easier on you. Let's go over a few of those things. One of the first things that I think that you should get, you've seen a lot of these guys that coyote hunt that have a stand that they clamp their rifle to so they don't have to try to hold up that heavy rifle with that night vision optics. Those things are crazy heavy. And then if you're like me, you've got a big light that's strapped to your rifle as well, a big IR light, and time you get all that stuff put on there and put it together, it's kind of heavy. But you can also get things that will make it a little bit easier on you financially, because some of those tripods that you get like from Death Grip, they're pretty high. You know, some of them's $300 or more. But you can buy some things and sometimes do a slight modification to them and use them on a regular tripod like you would use on a camera, like I've done with this one. This is from a company called Shot Steady, and they actually make a foregrip that's made to go on any gun that's got a Velcro strap that goes around your gun, holds it down. It's got rubber up inside of there so it don't hurt your gun and it won't slide around. And the original setup of this, there's a handle right here. Now what I did is I took the handle off, and on the bolt that the handle works on, I put a base for a camera. So now I have a thing to hold my rifle I can put right into a camera tripod, strap my gun right into it, it won't move at all, and I can move my gun any way I want to, same way I could if I had one of the expensive rifle tripods like a lot of the coyote hunters use. And it doesn't always tie up your tripod, that if you want to use your tripod just for camera for something else, if you're out in the field and you just want to get some video of your kids or the animals during the off season or something like that, or if you're just going to film someone else, you can take this off and put camera on there, or you can use it when you're hunting. That's one good thing. Another good thing that I think it's an essential to take with you in the field, and that is a knife. Okay, now what I have here is two different variances of knives. Okay, now this first knife I'm going to show you, there's nothing wrong with packing one of these. It's a skinning knife. This one's handmade from a guy in Nebraska. They're very expensive, and here's the problem with them. They'll do the job. Okay, don't get me wrong there. The little dude's got elk handler handle. They'll do the job. They're sharp as a razor, and they will skin and gut a deer no problem. Problem with that is, think about that laying on the ground in the leaves, how easy it would be to lose where that was at. An expensive knife, gone. And I've seen it happen many times. Guys lay a knife down when they're gutting a deer and forget what they're doing, and after they get the deer gutted, they drag the deer away from the gut pile to take some pictures, so everything's not there, you know, looking terrible in the picture, and then when they go to get their knife, they can't find it. Okay, that is a problem. This is what I carry. Okay, I bought these at Walmart several years ago. There's two different styles of knives in this. There is the skinning knife, or gutting knife, I guess you could say. Get one with the gut hook. That will help you more than anything, that when you're originally opening that deer up, you can just unzip him, just like unzipping your pants, and you don't have to worry about cutting into the stuff you don't want to cut. Then this is a really good skinning knife the way they made this. They got the groove in them right there so you can put your finger in them. You can lock your finger in there, and it makes where you got a lot of control on that knife, and you ain't got to worry about getting cut from your finger getting up on the sharp side of the blade. Biggest thing is though, they're orange. You throw this thing down on the ground, it shows real good, sticks out real good. You ain't gonna lose it. Both these knives together is all you'll ever need to handle a deer. These two knives at Walmart, I think I gave $17 for these two knives. I don't know the deers that they've gutted and skinned, a whole bunch. And like I said, I've thrown them down on the ground when I was using both hands doing something, and as soon as I needed the knife, I knew when I looked down, there it was. I could see that orange. Even if it was half covered up with leaves, you could still see it. So I didn't have to worry about losing it. That's another good thing. Now, a lot of folks prefer calls. Okay, some folks say, I don't like a deer call because I'm not 100% sure on how to use it, or when to use it, or how much to use it. So I may end up causing myself a deer because I use it too much, and the deer goes, something's not right. Either that deer I'm hearing has got a problem, or that's not a deer that I'm hearing. But deer calls are handy to use, especially a grunt call. If you get a buck that's coming in that area and you see he's coming, but he's not moving very good, but you can see him, you can just a few light calls to him, let him know there's another buck in that area, and then shut off. Be still, let him come to you. He'll come if he hears it. But you don't want to just keep blowing it and blowing it and blowing it and blowing it. Now that's a pretty cheap call. One of the ones that come from Walmart. Again, I can't remember the brand of it, but it wasn't very expensive. It was like 10 or 12 bucks, pretty inexpensive. Now this one, I really, really like this call. This call is handmade from mineral wood that a good friend of mine in Washington State, the company that he has is called Wild Custom Calls. Y'all should look him up on the internet. He makes all kinds of slate calls for turkey, all kinds of bird calls, all kinds of deer and elk calls. God knows what he's doing. But with this particular call, you've got all three calls built in. And then you can screw this body apart. And once you get it all the way apart, so you got a doe, you got a buck, and you've got a fawn. Now the fawn call, you may or may not have use for that a whole lot. In early season, if you're a bow hunter, that thing is magic. I mean, that fawn call works. It'll bring deers, it'll bring does running, and at that time of the year, bucks are trying to figure out where the does are hanging out. So if a doe takes off to leave an area where a buck is, most of the time that buck will follow her just to see where she's going, because he's not really worried about breeding her at that moment, but he wants to know where she's going, so the next time he goes to look for her, he'll know where to find her. But again, got that good, solid, even tone buck call. I love that buck call. And a good, steady doe call. That is a doe, not a doe distress call. That is a doe in estrus call. A lot of times you'll need that extra call. If you know there's a buck in there, you can see him. He's come so far and he's hung up. You can hit him with that doe in estrus call, and it's like a yearning in that call. It's like that doe is calling to him, like, "Come here, I need you to come see me." And most of the time, if he's close enough to where he can hear it, he's going to come to it. Just don't get over aggressive. Hit it 2 or 3 times, put it down quietly, leave it, and be still. Now, this is going to be the one thing that you'll hear the most argument over of anything in the woods. And that is rattling horns. Okay, rattling horns, either they work or they don't work. And that sounds so stupid, doesn't it? But it's totally true. Okay, if you have faith in rattling horns, I promise you, if you use them, they're going to bring in a deer. If you don't have faith in rattling horns, you'll think they'll never work. You'll leave them hanging in the house or in your shop or wherever you keep them stored at, and you'll never use them. And guys, I'm telling you, I've had a lot of deers come toward these things at a run. The trick is, understand something. A deer, when he hears these horns and it sounds like it's in a fight, he understands there's going to be movement. He understands there's animals up there fighting and I need to get to them guys. So don't worry so much about movement. Worry about concealment. That deer's going to see some movement. He's going to hear some stuff that he don't normally hear unless it's during this time of year. But he's going to come to it because it's 2 bucks in his area. Where he's a big buck or a small buck, he's going to come to it because those bucks are in his area, and he does not want them to take over in his area. He wants them to absolutely be 100% out of his area where the does are. And he thinks maybe if they're there fighting, there could possibly even be a doe there. And that's why a lot of times even small deer will come into where the fight is to see if maybe they can sneak in and get a doe while those big bucks are fighting. How to use rattling horns? Very simple. You don't just go, you know, as soon as you start rattling, you don't do that. Because if you start doing that, then every deer in the woods is going to know that's not right, something's not right. When deers face off, get on the internet and watch some videos that people have got of deers fighting. They don't immediately go into bloodshed, I'm going to rip your eyeballs out fighting. They go into very soft testing each other. Just rubbing each other's horns on each other. And after about 30 or 45 seconds of that, if they've decided they're pretty evenly matched and one of them doesn't want to walk away, then they'll usually start with one lock. And then it'll build from that. And you could always paw the ground a little bit, have you some leaves or sticks or something there close to you can do that with on a tree limb. And this fight most of the time is going to end the same way it started. And then one of those bucks would run away. And then the first thing that other buck is going to do after that one runs away is he's going to rub something, whether it be the ground, whether it be a tree or a small bush. He's going to rub something almost immediately to get his smell back in his area and let all the does in the area know, I'm the boss, don't mess with me. Rattling horns work. Now what I like to do in conjunction with the rattling horns, as soon as the fight is over, and maybe even a couple of times if I've got one of the calls like this, so I can do this, have it in my mouth, and during the fight, if I can do that, if I can use the call, that kind of adds to it. But as soon as I get done with the fight, I want to be still, I want to be quiet, and I want to have my head on a swivel watching. I want to just scan my area continuously, because guys, you'd be amazed how close a really big buck can get to you and you not know it, because they'll skirt open areas as long as they can. If there's high weeds, if there's branches, different stuff like that, that they can get behind, they'll stay behind those till right at the very last minute that they have to come out, because they don't want to show themselves, because it's been bred into them through their instinct now that if I get in the open, chances of me getting shot at is a whole lot better. Now, that there's other calls you can get, there's other styles. I like to use regular rattling horns off of deers that I've killed, because I think the true horn has a better sound. Now, if you don't take care of them, then that sound will go away, okay? They'll get dull. There's a secret to doing that, and it's a very simple secret. At the end of every season, coat your rattling horns with hairspray. That's right, hairspray. The hairspray that your wife uses when she's dolling up her hair when you're going out or you're going to church on Sunday. That's all you need. Spray it on there and let them dry, then hang them up. The horns are made out of basically the same stuff that your fingernails and your hair is made out of. And when you spray that hairspray on there, it coats the outside of those. It keeps them from getting oxidized. It keeps the sound from getting dead. And it keeps the sharp, click to those horns, like it was something that's, you know, good solid horns and puts out a good sound. Those horns come off of a deer that was killed in 1964. 1964. That's crazy. And they still right today, because they've always been treated with hairspray and they were handed down to me, that they sound better than a lot of deer horns that you get that's been killed just 2 or 3 years ago, but have either just been thrown out in a building somewhere or hung up outside on the porch for sun and air to get to them, and they've oxidized. It's important, because these animals, they live in the woods and they take care of themselves by noticing everything that's going on in their neighborhood. So whenever you have something that doesn't match what you're used to, then you're going to be just like them. You're going to say, that's not something that sounds right. So if he hears somebody out there sounds like you're banging together 2 pieces of PVC pipe, then he's going to know that's not right. But again, there's a lot of different types of rattling horns that you can get. Some of them are made out of synthetic materials, and then of course the regular horns. Some people even in areas where they know that there's big bucks, maybe there's something to this, I don't know, they'll only use small horns to rattle. Maybe there's something to that, and the buck just gets excited thinking, yeah, okay, there's somebody, I can definitely run that guy out because he's not got much of a rack. Maybe there's something to that, I don't know. I've never tried it to see different. I've used this same set of horns since I was big enough to deer hunt, and they've always worked for me. I've killed a lot of deers with those horns. I've had does run into those horns. I think when does get real hot and estrus, they haven't seen a buck in a day or two, and they hear a fight, they're going to run to it. They want to see who won that, and then they want to go talk to that guy that won that. You know, so it's important stuff to know what you're dealing with. But the hairspray thing, I'll do a video on that when deer season's over and I put them away. Now, another thing that you have to have in a lot of states, some states you don't have to have it. You have to have hunter orange, you know, and I've got a pretty neat little Joy Dog Food hunter orange hat right there. I'm going to be giving that away to a subscriber pretty soon. That's a pretty nice little hat. And I've also got the one that I use, and what I do every year is I take my vest after season's over and I fold it up and I put it down in my toboggan. I have an orange toboggan. That kills 2 problems with 1 stone. It keeps my ears warm and it gets my blaze orange that I have to have. But here's another thing why I like it. Okay, I don't know how well you can see that going right into the sun, but it's got LED lights in it. It's got 4 in it, and they're pretty bright. And it's rechargeable. You take this thing, it just pops out of the hoodie, you plug it up in a USB port and charge them. It takes about an hour and a half to charge it, and it'll last about 10 or 12 hours and puts out a lot of light for those little lights. It's pretty bright. And like I said, I put my vest right down inside of there, and then when I put it in my gun cabinet to store for over the summer and waiting for next fall, then it's all right there together. Because if you're like me, I've had a few years I forgot to do that, and I never could find that vest. I'd have to go to Walmart and buy a new one. Doing it this way, I've had the same vest several years, and it's much better if you'll do that and keep all your stuff together. And then I'll put a lot of this stuff in a big Ziploc baggie and just leave it in the gun safe, so the following year when I pull it out, it's all right there ready. I ain't got to spend a week looking for my gear, or got to spend another $100 going buying stuff. Now, here's something else, and I suggest that everyone remembers to do this. There is so many coyotes in this country now, and there's beginning to get what people are afraid of, that there's beginning to be some mountain lions coming back into this country. I don't know if there is or not, but I know there's a lot of coyotes. I don't know that a single coyote would be that much of an issue, but I have a feeling if you were down over a deer field dressing it and had blood all over you and blood all over the place, and a pack of coyotes of 8 or 10 come up on you, you may have a problem, especially if you're muzzleload hunting and your gun's sitting leaned up against a tree 20 yards away. Buy yourself a 9mm pistol. You can buy them really cheap, $200 or $300 for one that'll operate every time you pull the trigger. Put that gun on your person. Do not shoot the deer with the pistol. Keep that on your person for personal defense. Here's why. There's a lot of 2-legged varmints as well as 4-legged varmints, and if people see an opportunity to make some money off of you, they may be just as ravenous as a pack of coyotes, and you need more than one shot to get yourself out of that situation. I don't trust no place, nowhere, no time. People are just, it's a crazy world, and it needs to be dealt with. You take care of yourself and your family and protect yourself, and be prepared to have to protect yourself. That's very important. But get yourself a pistol, keep it on your side. It's perfectly legal, just can't use it in most states to shoot at the wildlife. But you can use it to protect yourself if you're trying to keep coyotes from getting to you, or a cat getting to you, or some other dude trying to get to you. Just keep yourself protected. Alright, now last thing. This thing is something that you should do the same day you set your blind up. The same day you put this up, you should bring your rangefinder with you. And you should pick out places that you can use as landmarks in the area where you're going to be shooting, and get yardages on those. I have yardage over to the pond. I have yardage to a blind that's on the other side of the property. I have yardage to a feeder. I have yardage to 2 different cameras. I have yardage to a secondary trail that comes into the field. And I know what all those are. And then what I do is I make myself a little map. And I keep that in my blind, so that it's hanging in there. Anytime that if I see that critter and I see where it's at, and I can look on that and I know, okay, that's at the camera number 1. It's 197 yards. So I know where and how I need to hold on my reticle, on my rifle, to shoot it at that animal. And it's very, very helpful, because a lot of times if you see an animal and you've got something like this you're going to use in there, it'll cause you to take that extra second to slow down just a little bit. And that'll allow you to calm yourself and level your breathing. You look at that and say, okay, this is where he's at. He's 197 yards. I know I'm going to hold on the top quarter of his shoulder, right behind his shoulder. All right, and then you can make a shot, and it'll help you along the way. And to me, that's a big help, because a lot of times I've seen a big deer come out and I'd get to all the pieces, and I'd immediately want to go out the window of my blind with my gun barrel and get ready to start blasting. But I would catch myself, and I'd go back and I'd get my little thing, okay, where do I want to make a shot on him at? And I'd look, okay, this is how far it is. I know where this is, where I need to hold at. Now on the back of this, you see some writing. I've got a list on here. I've got a list of the 8 things, I call them the 8 things I don't want to leave the house without. Number 1, and I've done it, ammo. I've got in the blind, go to put ammo in my rifle, and it was still sitting on the coffee table in my living room. It's happened. Your Hunter Orange, that can ruin your day. You can ride your 4-wheeler or whatever you're taking for a mile back in the woods, and then walk another 1.5 miles to your blind or your tree stand, and realize you didn't have your Hunter Orange, and you got to go home, because if you get caught without it, you're going to lose everything. Knife. Got to have a knife. If you don't have it, you can get by without having it. But if you've ever killed a decent sized buck, and you're back in the woods and you got to go uphill with him, and you can't got a way to gutting him, you're gonna wish you had that knife. It's very important. Calls and horns. Again, some people don't like to use calls. Some people do. Some people don't think horns work at all. Some people do. If you're going to use them, they're on your list. Don't leave home without them. Light. Make sure you have a light other than the one that like I had on my head. I also take a headlamp. Make sure it works before you take it with you. After I put it in the blind the first time, then I'm good. I don't never bother it. I leave it in there. The batteries aren't going to go down in the amount of season I'm going to be hunting. It's hanging in there when I need it, and I'm in good shape. Water and snacks. Now that'll be something that you're going to have to, if you like me, what I like to do, especially during early muzzleloading season, I get in the blind before daylight and I don't leave till dark. Because I want to use every waking moment that I have of legal hunting light to take a chance on that deer, because you never know. I mean, you just never know. I've seen them wait till 1 minute before shooting light was over, and I've seen them walk out in the middle of a field at 2:15 in the day and lay down. It's so important that you understand that I can't kill that deer if I'm not where that deer is. Okay, personal protection. We went over that handgun. To me, that's almost as important tool as your rifle is. Almost, not quite, but pretty close. Because if you need it and you ain't got it, you're sure going to wish that you needed it, that you had it rather. And lastly, gloves. Now, farther it gets up in the season, the more you're going to need those gloves. You may leave the house. I live in southern Kentucky, and I may leave the house in the last 2 or 3 days of rifle season. It might be 55 degrees if I leave the house in the middle of the day. And you don't need no gloves. You're in good shape. As soon as the sun starts going down about 3:30, it cools off real quick, and all of a sudden the temperature drops to 30, 28 degrees, somewhere in there, and your hands are cold. It's going to greatly affect your ability to shoot and handle anything else you've got that you need to handle. Take gloves. And when I say gloves, I mean make sure you have some gutting gloves as well, and those should stay in your blind after your first trip of putting your blind up. You can take most of this stuff to the blind on the first trip and never have to carry any of it again. Just take it in there, leave it. If you've got a bag or something that you can hang it up. With me, I have a big DeWalt toolbox kind of, it's on a roller, that I use for a seat. And I can open it up, I can put all my stuff in there, and it would be hard pressed for a bear to get to any of it. A lot of time, most time in the wintertime, I'll just go ahead and put me about 8 or 10 bottles of water in there so that I've got them and I don't forget about them. And I still end up putting a couple in my pockets when I get ready to leave the house, because I drink a lot of water because of the medicines that I take. But guys, that's everything I have on this episode. I wanted to show you again this Revasri rangefinder. It's dirt cheap on Temu and it works great. I ended up getting this one for 21 bucks. And when you don't have the rangefinder turned on, it's a really good monocular. It's a 5 power, I think, and it focuses real well, and you can see real good through it. Handy little tool. And like I said, that should be used as soon as you get your blind set up. The next thing you should do while you're taking a break from setting that blind up, get your ranges and see if there's any place you need to address, if there are any limbs, stuff like that you need to cut, or my shooting lane's open, and get yourself ready. Guys, I hope everybody gets a big deer this year, but if you don't, I hope everybody's willing to share a couple of those deer steaks. Y'all, I hope to see you out there somewhere. This is the Fat Man. I'm gone.